Come in, dear. I've just the story for tonight.
Not every house creaks from age. Some houses shift. They learn, they watch. And if you're not careful, they'll remember more than you do. Shall we go inside? The house on Larkspur Lane wasn't haunted, not in the traditional sense. It didn't bleed from the walls, or echo with phantom footsteps, or fill with the scent of unseen flowers. It simply existed, quietly, at the edge of town. A squat Victorian with iron latticework and half-blind windows, faded blue paint, and a porch that dipped slightly to the left. Every town had one. A house no one could quite remember being sold, or renovated, or occupied for long. Until Heather and Luke moved in. They weren't naive, just practical. The rent was cheap. The landlord, an older man with teeth like chipped porcelain, said it had character. Heather, ever the optimist, said it had potential. Luke, ever the realist, said it had rot. But it had walls, and they were tired of moving. The first week passed in a blur of unpacking and paint swatches. They tore up mouldy carpet, discovered hardwood beneath. Heather found old dishes in the cupboards, delicate bone china, each one painted with a small black eye in the center. Creepy, Luke muttered, holding one up to the light. Vintage, Heather corrected, setting them aside. They agreed to keep a few. It started with the windows. In the mornings, the glass seemed too clear, too polished. They reflected light in odd directions, catching things that shouldn't be there. A cat that neither of them owned. A coat rack that didn't exist. Once, Luke swore he saw Heather standing behind him in the reflection, except she was upstairs, still asleep. "That's just your brain doing weird early morning things," she said, brushing it off. Maybe it was. The real trouble began on a Wednesday. Heather was working from home, laptop open, coffee going cold. She paused for a break and looked up, and for a second, she swore the living room window was showing someone else's reflection. Not hers, not Luke's. A woman, pale, long dark hair, wearing a dress Heather didn't own. Then it was gone. When Luke got home, she mentioned it casually, trying to laugh. He didn't. "Same window?" he asked. She nodded. He told her about something strange from the night before, how he'd walked past the hallway mirror and seen himself blink out of sync. They checked the windows, the mirrors, the walls. Nothing unusual. Until the next morning. Luke had a meeting downtown. Heather stayed behind. As she passed the hallway, something tugged at her vision. She turned. The full-length mirror showed her standing perfectly still, but she was moving. Her reflection's mouth smiled. They stopped using mirrors after that, but the windows, those couldn't be avoided. That weekend, Heather covered several with old sheets, claiming it was for the heat. Luke didn't argue. They spoke less, ate in silence. Both noticed how the house had become colder despite the summer heat, how shadows clung to the corners, refusing to lift. One night, Heather woke to the sound of footsteps on the porch. She peeked through the curtain. No one there. Just the window. Just her reflection. Smiling again. She started recording herself, just in case. Each morning she checked the footage, and on Saturday she found it. A 10-second clip from just before dawn. The bedroom, still and quiet. She was asleep, but her reflection in the standing mirror was not. It watched her, then turned to look directly at the camera, and waved. They should have left then, packed up, run, slept in the car if they had to. But fear has a way of settling, becoming routine. They justified, rationalized. Maybe the mirror was old, maybe it was stress, maybe the house was just odd. Besides, they had nowhere else to go. That Sunday, Luke removed every mirror in the house, every reflective surface, or so he thought. Later that evening, Heather opened the drawer in the upstairs hallway and found a set of spoons, polished silver, each one catching just enough of her face to look wrong. She buried them in the backyard. The next morning, they were back in the drawer, clean, waiting. The windows changed next. Heather noticed one had a crack, not in the glass, but in the reflection, a thin, jagged line that flickered when she moved. She stood before it for 5 minutes, waving her arms, jumping, spinning. The reflection lagged like a bad video call. 2 seconds behind, then 1, then synced. Then it smiled. She hadn't. Luke began sleeping downstairs. He said it was the heat, but Heather knew he'd seen something. In the mirror behind the fridge, in the reflection of his phone. He wouldn't say what. At night, she heard the windows whisper. Not words, just breath. In, out, like the house was learning to breathe. On Monday, Heather opened the front door to get the mail. The porch light was on, though it hadn't worked in weeks. And standing in the yard was a figure, tall, still, skin pale as smoke. Not Luke, not anyone she knew. Just watching. She closed the door. Didn't speak of it. Didn't sleep. On Tuesday, she shattered the hallway mirror with a hammer. The glass hit the floor with a sound like a scream. The shards reflected her face 100 times. Only one smiled back. They tried to leave. They packed the car in silence, drove 2 blocks, and the road looped back to Larkspur Lane. They tried again. This time it brought them back after 5. The third time, the house was already open, lights on, windows fogged with breath. The front door stood ajar, waiting. The final recording Heather made was on her laptop, just her voice. I don't know if this'll make it out, but if it does, don't come to Larkspur Lane. Don't look in the windows. Don't bring mirrors. Don't trust what smiles back. There's a pause. And then, if it watches you long enough, it learns how to open. Click. End of file. Houses forget nothing, especially those that never learn to blink. And if you ever feel eyes on you while you're home alone, it might not be you they're watching. Such a terrible thing to happen. Don't you agree? Some shadows stretch where they shouldn't. Some corners stay dark no matter how much light you shine. And some things only need one invitation to stay forever. Shall I tell you what crept in while she slept? No one took Olivia seriously when she said something lived in the corner of her dorm room. To be fair, she barely believed it herself. She'd never been one for ghost stories. Science major, rational thinker, straight-A student. But in the second week of her first year at Renly University, she began waking up in the middle of the night, frozen, eyes open, heart pounding. At first, she chalked it up to stress. New environment, roommate drama, sleep paralysis was common, right? But the second time it happened, she saw something. A shape in the corner of the room near her desk. Not just a shadow, a figure. It crouched, long limbs, head low, hands on the floor. Watching. She couldn't scream, couldn't blink. Just lay there, breath caught behind clenched teeth as it stared. And then, just before she slipped back into sleep, it moved. Not toward her, not away. It simply adjusted like someone settling in. By morning, it was gone. She told no one. She barely remembered it herself, until it happened again 2 nights later. Same thing. 3:17 a.m., her clock blinked, frozen, eyes open, the figure still crouched. She could make out more this time. Not clothes, not a face, just texture. Its skin was dark, but not black. Almost dusty, like it had been pulled from under a bed and forgotten. The corner behind it seemed deeper than it should have been. Too deep. On Thursday, she mentioned it to Sasha, her roommate. Sleep paralysis demon, Sasha said, laughing. Classic. Mine used to look like my mum. Olivia tried to laugh too, but that night she didn't sleep at all. Not because she wasn't tired, but because she kept catching movement in her peripheral vision, always in the corner. The same spot, right beneath the ceiling vent. It never moved when she looked straight at it, but every time she turned away it seemed closer. At breakfast the next day, Sasha said something odd. You really snore when you're dreaming. I didn't sleep, Olivia replied. Sasha paused. Yeah, you did. She showed her phone, a short video time-stamped at 3:20 a.m. It showed Olivia asleep in her bed. The figure in the corner was visible, and it was standing. She deleted the video, packed a bag. Spent the weekend at her aunt's house across town, pretending she needed a break. She slept soundly for the first time in a week. No dreams, no paralysis, no figure. But on Sunday night, her aunt's hallway mirror reflected something crouched in the corner of the guest room. She left before sunrise. When she returned to campus, she asked around, quietly, casually, had anyone else ever seen something during sleep paralysis? Most said yes, a few said no. But one girl, Harper, 3rd floor, went pale. She said, "In the corner, right? Low to the ground?" Olivia nodded. Harper swallowed hard. "Did it speak yet?" That night, Olivia placed her phone across the room, facing her bed. She hit record. She made it until 2:58 a.m. before drifting off. And at exactly 3:17, her eyes snapped open. Frozen. She couldn't move. Couldn't blink. The figure was crouched again. But this time it turned its head. No face, just a smooth, shifting surface like fog trapped under skin. And then for the first time it spoke. Or maybe whispered. A single phrase. "You let me in." Then darkness. The video was worse. It showed her lying still, motionless, then suddenly sitting up, eyes wide, staring at the figure. She stayed like that for 7 minutes, then slowly lay back down. In the video, her mouth was moving. No sound, just a faint smile. She showed the video to Sasha. Her roommate refused to watch the whole thing. "Delete it," she said. "Burn it, sage the room, I don't know." But Olivia didn't, because part of her wasn't sure it mattered anymore. And another part, deep down, felt like she was finally being seen. The next week, she stayed up reading medical journals on sleep disorders. By Thursday, she hadn't slept in 3 days. And still, she saw movement in the corner. During lectures, in the library, reflected in the glass of a vending machine. And always at 3:17 a.m., her eyes opened, even when she never remembered closing them. Harper stopped coming to class. Her roommate said she'd transferred dorms suddenly, no explanation. Olivia went to her old room, knocked. No one answered. She turned to leave, but glanced back. In the window behind the curtain, a face. Not hers, not Harper's. Something featureless, watching. On Friday, she bought blackout curtains, covered every reflective surface, unplugged her alarm clock, switched off her phone. That night, she fell asleep by accident. Just for a minute, she thought. She woke on the floor, back pressed against the cold wood, face to face with the corner. Empty. And then, a hand reached out from behind her. She didn't go to class after that. Didn't return calls, emails. The RA came by, no answer. Campus security was called. They opened the door. The room was empty. Mostly. Just a note taped to the mirror. It waits for someone new now. The thing in the corner isn't always in your head. Sometimes it's in your room. And if you wake up at 3:17 a.m. tonight, don't open your eyes. Such a terrible thing to happen. Don't you agree? Every town has a ghost story. A place the teenagers dare each other to visit. But some stories aren't just old whispers. They're waiting to finish what they started. Shall I take you to the water's edge? They said she only appeared when the water ran low. That in the heat of summer, when Hollow Creek dried to a trickle, you could hear her sobbing. That if you stood on the bridge at midnight and said her name 3 times, she would answer. Lena didn't believe any of that. Ghost stories were just something kids told each other to feel brave. Still, when James dared her to come out to the creek that Friday night, she didn't say no. Neither did Avery, Marcus, or Tonya. 5 of them, flashlights in hand, crunching over dry grass and cricket song. Hollow Creek used to be part of a nature reserve. Now it was just a forgotten slash of dirt and rocks behind the old mill. The bridge was still there, a single wooden plank structure sagging under its own age. It creaked under their weight. "You're sure this is where it happened?" Lena asked. James grinned. "According to the internet, yeah. Hollow Creek drowning 1964. Girl named Margaret Elwood. They say she was pushed." Tonya rolled her eyes. They say a lot of things online. They found her body wedged under that rock. He pointed to a jagged formation beneath the bridge. Face up, eyes open. Avery shuddered. You read too much Reddit, Marcus muttered. They stood in a loose circle, flashlights off now, moonlight catching the brittle reeds around them. James cleared his throat. Okay, midnight. Say her name 3 times. Let's do this. Lena hesitated. We're not really trying to summon her, right? It's just a story. I don't want to end up on some TikTok creepypasta list, Avery muttered. Tonya smirked. Too late for that, James began. Margaret Elwood. The others joined in, unsure. Margaret Elwood. A pause. Margaret. The wind cut in. Not a gust, not a breeze, just a sudden stillness. And then the creak of wood behind them. As if someone had just stepped onto the bridge. They turned. No one there, just moonlight and cracked planks. Okay, James said, that was weird. Lena looked at her phone. 12:01 a.m. Avery whispered, did you hear that? They listened, sobbing, very faint, from somewhere down the creek bed. Marcus shone his light. It's probably some raccoon or... The beam caught a figure, just for a moment, standing knee-deep in the shadows at the edge of the dried water line. Pale dress, long dark hair, facing away. Then gone. They ran. Didn't stop until they reached the lot by the mill, breathless, laughing, almost. The kind of laughter you do when you're scared and trying to deny it. Did you see her? James asked. No, Tonya said too quickly. Lena didn't speak. She kept glancing over her shoulder. Just before they piled into their cars, Avery said, wait, where's Marcus? They looked around. Empty trees, empty road, the woods silent. They called his phone. Straight to voicemail. They waited another 10 minutes, then drove back down the trail. Nothing. No footprints, no noise. Just the bridge. And the creek, now flowing again. They went to the police. Told them he wandered off, got lost. Left out the part about the ghost story. About the name, about the figure. No one would have believed them. Except Officer Grayson. She said, another one. They blinked. Grayson leaned in. You kids need to stop going down there. By Monday, flyers were up around campus. Missing, Marcus Hayes, last seen near Hollow Creek. Lena skipped class, couldn't sleep. She kept seeing that figure, not clearly, but always near water, puddles, gutters, the sink. Always turned away. On Wednesday, she woke to her dorm window wide open. Outside, in the grass below, something was written in the frost. One left, she showed James. He laughed nervously. Probably Tonya or Avery messing with us. But Tonya hadn't been to class all week. Neither had Avery. James stopped answering texts. Lena walked to the library, sat near other people, avoided reflective surfaces. She tried to remember what Marcus had said before the figure appeared. It's probably just something about a raccoon, about noise. Wait, had she ever actually seen him leave? Or had he been still? Watching? Had they just turned and he was gone? Thursday night, she stood by her bathroom mirror, said the name. Just once. Margaret. She waited. Nothing. She said it again. Still nothing. Then her phone buzzed. An unknown number. A voicemail. She listened, just sobbing, and one whispered phrase. Face up, eyes open. Friday, she returned to the creek. Alone. No flashlight. No phone. Just the wind and the low trickle of water. She stepped onto the bridge. It didn't creak. She whispered, "What do you want?" No reply. But in the creek bed below, something moved. A hand, then a shoulder. Someone rising, slow and broken from beneath the surface. Not Margaret. Marcus, mouth open, eyes empty. He looked at her, then pointed at the water. Lena didn't run. She stepped off the bridge and vanished. The next day, the flyers were gone. No Marcus, no Avery, no Tonya, no James, no Lena. The dorms had no record of them. The registrar didn't recognize their names. Only Officer Grayson remembered. She drove past Hollow Creek that evening. The bridge stood solid. Below it, the creek ran steady. And for a moment, she thought she saw 5 figures standing knee-deep in the water. Face up, eyes open, waiting. Every legend has a beginning. Some just haven't ended yet. And if you hear sobbing beneath the bridge, don't look. Such a terrible thing to happen. Don't you agree? Ah, good evening, restless soul. You've returned. How wonderful. Tonight I bring you a little tale about curiosity. You see, sometimes it isn't the haunted house or the creaking floorboard that should frighten us. Sometimes it's the neighbor we never see, the one who's always watching. So settle in, dearest, and keep your door firmly shut, for this is the story of the man in apartment 6B. Nora didn't know her neighbors. That was part of the charm. The apartment building was older, thick walls, creaky stairs, the kind of place where people kept to themselves and no one asked for sugar or small talk. That suited Nora fine. After a year of working from home as a technical writer, she'd learned to appreciate silence, and 6B gave her plenty, except for the man across the hall. She'd never seen him. Apartment 6B, same number as hers, just across the landing. She saw packages delivered there, mostly small brown envelopes, all addressed to A. Jensen. They never sat for long. By the time Nora checked the mail or brought in groceries, the packages would be gone. No footsteps, no door creaks, just gone. She thought she might have seen his silhouette once, a flash of movement behind the peephole when she paused in front of his door with a parcel that had been misdelivered. She knocked, waited, nothing. She ended up leaving it outside. It was gone the next day. She started calling him the ghost, not out loud, of course, but in her head, the ghost in 6B. It started bothering her. The silence, the strangeness, the way the air outside his door always felt colder. Once, she noticed that the doorknob was warm, even though the hallway was freezing. Another time, she heard a faint electrical hum when she passed by, like something mechanical behind the walls. One night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering what he did in there. Maybe he was just a reclusive gamer, or someone working night shifts, maybe nothing sinister at all. But curiosity is a slow itch, and hers had been crawling for weeks. So she decided to watch. The peephole was small, but the hallway light made it easy to catch movement. She pulled a chair quietly across the wooden floor and placed it behind her door, her eye level with the tiny lens. She sat there for over an hour, nursing a cup of tea that went cold in her hands. Nothing. Then, just as she was about to give up, she saw something. His door, 6B, opened just a crack. No light spilled out, just darkness. And from within that darkness, something was watching. She blinked and leaned closer. There was someone standing there, still as a shadow, just inside the doorframe, not stepping out, not making a sound, just watching her peephole, watching her. She gasped and stumbled backward, knocking the chair over. By the time she worked up the nerve to look again, the door was shut. After that night, she tried to ignore it. Tried to tell herself it had been a trick of the light, or maybe a mirror. But deep down, she knew better. She started avoiding her front door altogether. She kept the blinds drawn tight, and when the mail came, she waited until late to retrieve it. Still, the tension grew. Then the noise started. A low, static buzz, like an old television left on in the background. Sometimes she'd hear a faint voice, garbled, as if coming from a speaker too far away. Always at odd hours, 2 a.m., 3:17, never consistent. She pressed her ear to the wall one night and heard what sounded like breathing. Heavy, ragged breathing, coming from 6B. One day, she saw the building manager in the hallway and finally asked, "Hey, the guy in 6B, Jensen, right? You ever see him?" The manager looked at her, puzzled. 6B? That unit's empty. Nora blinked. No, it's not. I've seen packages delivered. Old mail. That guy moved out 6 months ago. Haven't found a new tenant. Place needs electrical work or something. Keeps shorting out. She didn't reply, just nodded and went back inside, locking her door with shaking hands. That night she couldn't sleep. The static came back. louder this time, like it was right outside her door. She tiptoed toward it, every floorboard groaning louder than she remembered. Her heart pounded as she reached the peephole. She peered through and nearly screamed. The hallway was lit blood red by the exit sign, and directly across from her, the door to 6B was wide open. Not ajar, open. Inside, she saw dozens of screens, a wall of them, glowing, flickering with footage, all black and white, all familiar. Her living room, her bedroom, her bathroom. Different angles, different times. Some of the footage was live, some looked old, grainy, like it had been archived for months. She saw herself brushing her teeth, sleeping, singing to the radio in her kitchen. She staggered back, heart hammering. Then she did something reckless. She opened her door. The hallway was dead silent. The air felt thick, as if the building itself was holding its breath. She stepped across the landing slowly, barefoot on cold tile. The door to 6B stood open like a mouth. Inside, the apartment buzzed with static. The only light came from the monitors. No furniture, no decor, just a tangle of wires and a wall lined with old CRT screens. Some were stacked on towers of milk crates. Others were bolted into the drywall. She stepped in. The footage flickered as she entered. One of the monitors changed, showing her live, standing in the middle of the room. Another screen cut to a close-up of her face, then pulled back to show her entering 6B. Then another. And another. They were all shifting. More angles of her. More footage. Some from moments ago. Some from before she had moved in. She turned around, intending to leave, only to find the door had closed behind her. A whisper cut through the static. Not from the screens. From the walls. "You're home now." She froze. The air grew warmer. The hum deepened into a low thrum that shook the floor. One of the monitors cracked. Another sparked. She stumbled backward and tripped over a cable, landing hard. A low voice echoed again, closer this time. "You watch, so I watch too." Something moved in the corner of the room. Not on the screens. In the dark. A figure, hunched, angular, like a marionette made of shadows. Its head twitched once, and the monitors flared in unison. Nora screamed. The lights went out. She woke up in her apartment, on the floor, drenched in sweat. Sunlight poured in through the blinds. The static was gone. The hallway outside her door looked normal. No signs of damage, no cables, no open door across the hall. She rushed out and banged on 6B. No answer. She tried the handle, it was locked. When the manager arrived later that day, he let her in. Empty, dusty. No furniture, no electronics, just cobwebs and a faint smell of mildew. "No one's been in here," he said, frowning. "Told you it's vacant." But Nora knew. Because when she got back to her own apartment, something was off. Her living room window, normally shut, was open just a crack. And on her coffee table sat a single old CRT monitor, wired into nothing, glowing softly, and showing a live feed of her, standing there, watching herself. "You see now, don't you? Some doors should never be opened, and some eyes were never meant to be seen." Poor Nora. She wanted answers, and she got them. Far too many, in fact. So if you hear static in the middle of the night, or catch yourself on a screen you never turned on, do be careful. There's always someone watching. Such a terrible thing to happen, don't you agree? Oh, I do love the bush after dark. The rustling leaves, the unblinking stars, the way shadows stretch just a little too far. But some places, my dear, should never be walked at dusk. Deep in Australia's wild places, they say something ancient stirs in the waters, something that does not take kindly to strangers. Tonight I bring you a cautionary tale, a tale of pride, of warnings ignored, and of something that waits in the wetlands, so listen closely. This is the story of the Bunyip's warning. It was supposed to be a detox weekend. Matt had been glued to screens for months, grinding deadlines, gaming marathons, news doom scrolling. So when his cousin Dave suggested a bushwalk in rural Victoria, Matt said yes, before he had time to regret it. Dave was one of those outdoorsy types. Bearded, tanned, always barefoot unless he was hiking. He swore by secret trails and unplugging from the noise. They drove 3 hours into the scrubland, deep into the kind of terrain where GPS signals went to die. "You hear that?" Dave asked as they unloaded gear from the ute. Matt paused, silence. Exactly. No hum of power lines, no engines, just wind through dry gums and the distant burble of water. They were alone. They set off just after midday, cutting across flat grasslands and weaving through towering trees. Dave said the track was part of a forgotten stockman's trail, barely marked anymore. It felt that way. Roots snarled underfoot, branches clawed at sleeves, and the path thinned to barely a goat's track as they neared the water. That's when Matt saw the first circle. A ring of stones, maybe 2 meters wide, laid perfectly flat in a clearing. No scorch marks, no footprints, just pale, moss-covered stones pressed into the earth like a forgotten boundary. "What's that?" Matt asked. Dave glanced at it, shrugged. "Aboriginal marker, maybe? Could be ceremonial, just step around it." But Matt didn't move. There was something wrong about it. A sensation he couldn't place, like walking into a room where someone had just been arguing. The stillness was too sharp, too tense. He stepped around it, but he looked back twice. They camped near a shallow billabong. The water was still, mirror-like, eerily clean. As night fell, the sounds changed. Frogs, crickets, something heavy splashing far off. Matt sat by the fire, legs stretched, staring into the bush. "Ever hear about the bunyip?" he asked. Dave grinned. "Of course, it's an old yarn. Swamp creature, like Bigfoot meets Nessie. Locals used to believe it lived in billabongs, right? Still do in some places." Matt shivered, though the fire was warm. "What does it look like?" "No one agrees," Dave said. "Some say it's like a seal. Others reckon it's got feathers, or horns, or human eyes. That's the scary bit. You never see the bunyip, you just know it saw you." He threw another branch on the fire. Sparks hissed. "They say if you hear it whisper your name," Dave said, lowering his voice, "you're already marked." Matt laughed it off, sort of. That night, something woke him. A drip. Then another. He unzipped the tent. The fire had burned low. Dave's tent was zipped tight. The forest was still, unnaturally so. The frogs had stopped. Even the crickets were silent. He turned toward the billabong. Something was standing in the water. Not in the water, on the surface, just a few meters from the shore, perfectly still. The outline wasn't clear, but it was tall, thin, its head cocked to the side as though watching him. Matt froze. He blinked. It was gone. Ripples spread across the water. He told himself it was a dream. In the morning, he didn't mention it. They packed up and started hiking again, but the forest felt tighter, the air heavier. They passed another stone circle. This one had a small, jagged stick in the center. Matt stepped around it. Dave didn't even seem to notice. Around midday, they reached an old cattle yard, half collapsed, rusted through. That's where they met her. An old woman, aboriginal, with sharp eyes and weathered skin, sitting on a log like she'd been waiting. "You saw it," she said to Matt before he could speak. Dave looked confused. "I what?" "Last night," she said, never breaking eye contact. "The water walker." Matt felt the blood drain from his face. "I thought I dreamed it." She shook her head. "It knows you now." Dave chuckled nervously. "Hey, we don't mean any disrespect, we're just—" "You left tracks where no man should tread," she interrupted. "There are circles you don't cross, stones that whisper. The bunyip guards them." Matt felt a rising panic. "What do I do?" "Leave," she said simply, "and don't look back." They left. Not leisurely. They ran. The trees blurred past. The trail seemed unfamiliar, twisting, looping. Matt kept seeing things in his peripheral vision. A glint of wet fur, a flick of movement behind trees. Then came the sounds. Low guttural croaks, not frog-like, too deep. Then whispers. Soft at first, then louder, like wind through reeds. "Matthew!" He stopped cold. Dave grabbed his arm. "Don't listen," he hissed. "Keep moving." The forest groaned. Branches snapped somewhere behind them. They didn't speak again until they burst out onto the gravel road where they'd parked. The ute stood waiting, sun glinting off its bonnet. Matt slammed the door behind him and stared into the mirror. Nothing followed, but the silence stretched. Weeks passed. Back in the city, Matt tried to forget, but he kept waking at 3:17 a.m. every night, heart pounding, ears straining. One night, He checked his window and saw footprints, wet ones, on the floorboards beneath the sill. He started hearing whispers in the pipes, found small circles of moss forming in the corners of his bathroom tiles. Then came the letter. No return address. Inside, a single stone. Smooth, damp, covered in tiny grooves that looked almost like scratches. Almost like a name. Almost like his name. He flushed it, tried to forget. But the next night another arrived, and this one was warm. Ah, poor Matthew. He should have listened to the old woman, shouldn't he? You see, the bunyip isn't a beast you hunt. It's a warning, a watcher. And once it learns your name, you never really leave the billabong behind. So if you ever find yourself walking where stones form circles, take a step back. And whatever you do, don't look into the water after dark. Such a terrible thing to happen. Don't you agree? Some places do not want to be found. Deep woods, dark hollows, winding trails that twist just a little too far from the beaten path. And when the wind goes still, they listen. Tonight's tale concerns a child lost in such a place. But not all who wander are merely lost. No, my dear. Some are chosen. Come closer now. We begin with a search and end with something far more unsettling. This is the story of the lost child of Black Hollow. They found her standing at the edge of the clearing. Shoeless, mud up to her knees, hair tangled with burrs and leaves. A small figure in the mist, holding something in her right hand. A stick, maybe, or a bone. No one spoke for several seconds. Then the search captain, a man named Ferris, stepped forward slowly. "Lily?" he called. The girl turned her head toward the voice. Her eyes didn't focus. 3 days earlier, Lily Doran had wandered into Black Hollow during a family picnic. One moment she was playing at the tree line with her older brother. The next, she was gone. No scream, no struggle, just vanished. The town of Weatherbrook rallied fast. Volunteers scoured the trails. Drones buzzed overhead. Dogs barked uselessly at dense thickets. But Black Hollow had its reputation. People said it had swallowed children before. The last one had been in 1989, before that, 1952. Folks said the land was cursed, that there were things older than the forest buried beneath it, old stones, old shapes. But it was always just talk, until Lily came back. She didn't speak at first, sat quietly in the ranger's station, wrapped in a silver blanket, eyes wide, didn't flinch at questions, didn't answer them either. Her parents sobbed with relief. Her brother clung to her side. Then she started humming, softly, a tune no one recognized, the same 6 notes over and over. After a few hours, the paramedics noticed the symbols, drawn faintly in mud across her forearms, not childish scribbles. These were deliberate, curved lines that looped in unnatural symmetry, like spirals inside spirals. They washed them off. They came back. That night, her brother woke screaming. He said Lily had been standing over his bed, watching. When the parents checked, she was asleep, or seemed to be. Her hands were muddy again. The humming continued through the night, soft and tuneless. By morning, their dog refused to enter her room. The family called a child psychologist. Dr. Ellen Markham had worked with traumatized children for 20 years. She agreed to see Lily at the home. When she entered the room, Lily was already waiting. Seated cross-legged, hands in her lap, eyes focused now, but distant, like she was looking through Ellen. The first 15 minutes were quiet. Then Lily spoke. "He's still in the trees," she said softly. Ellen froze. "Who is?" "The man with no voice. He wears the others like clothes." The room went cold. Ellen ended the session early. She told the parents it was stress, re-entry confusion, common in trauma. She did not mention the way Lily's voice had changed pitch mid-sentence. She did not mention the moment where the child leaned in and whispered a string of words that sounded exactly like Ellen's own childhood address. She did not mention that her car wouldn't start for 3 hours after leaving the house. Lily began drawing. Symbols again, and shapes. A crooked tree repeated again and again. Always the same angles, same heavy branches, always surrounded by small dark figures with no faces. Her father took them away. She scratched them into the floorboards with her fingernails. She began to whisper at night. Not in English, By the 7th day, the house smelled of moss and wet soil. The power flickered constantly. The dog was found dead in the yard with its eyes open and legs arranged like it had been posed. The mother wanted to take Lily to the city, get real help. But when she approached the car with Lily's suitcase, the tires burst one by one with sharp, echoing cracks. No one touched the car again. On the 10th night, Lily vanished from her bed. Police were called. A search was mounted. They found her the next morning, sitting in the backyard, staring at the forest. "I went to see him again," she said, smiling. "He's inside the tree now." "What tree?" her mother asked, shaking. Lily lifted her muddy finger and pointed to Black Hollow. "There," she said, "where the roots taste names." The family moved away. Quickly, the house was left abandoned. The town tried to forget, but others had seen the symbols. A volunteer from the original search party was found wandering the forest barefoot, muttering about the skinless choir. A boy from Lily's school began humming the same 6 notes and wouldn't stop until he passed out from exhaustion. And someone spray-painted a perfect version of Lily's spiral symbol on the church doors. No one ever confessed. And then, of course, there were the disappearances. A girl on a school trip, gone when the class counted heads after lunch. A ranger found with dirt in his lungs and moss growing from his palms. A hiker who texted a friend a single message before vanishing. "There's a child out here. I think she's calling my name." Ah, poor Lily. Or should I say, poor us. For the forest gave her back, but not empty-handed. You see, there are places the world has tried to forget. Places that hunger. And sometimes they send something back wearing a child's smile. So if you ever hear humming in the trees, don't follow it, don't answer. And whatever you do, don't speak your name aloud. Such a terrible thing to happen. Don't you agree? Oh, we do love a good bargain, don't we? A treasure tucked beneath someone else's dust. But some things are sold for a reason. Some are given away just to be rid of them. And the worst of all, my dear, are the ones that were never meant to be sold in the first place. So if you're ever tempted by a charming little thing at a garage sale, pause a moment. Ask yourself, what's really inside it? Tonight, I offer you the story of the doll from Lot 42. It was the porcelain eyes that did it. Hollow, glossy, just a touch too wide. One was slightly cracked, a hairline fracture that ran through the iris like a vein. Evan hated dolls, always had. But his girlfriend, Tasha, loved them, especially old ones. The weirder the better. She'd drag him through every dusty market, every cluttered op shop, every half-rotten estate sale within driving distance. That Sunday's garage sale in the outer suburbs was her idea of paradise. Lot 42. A folding table crammed with knickknacks, teacups, broken radios, and the doll. A little Victorian thing in a faded blue dress, bonnet slightly askew. It sat upright, too stiff, like it had chosen its own position. "No tag," Evan said. The woman running the stall, short, grey-haired, with a sagging face like a melting candle, looked up sharply. "That doll's not for sale," she said flatly. Tasha held it up. "But it's on the table." The woman's eyes narrowed. "It shouldn't be." Evan started to put it back, but Tasha had already pulled out a $5 note. "It's perfect," she grinned. The woman didn't take the money. She just turned her head away. "You were warned," she muttered. The doll came home with them. Tasha put it on the top shelf in their living room, among her other oddities. Evan hated how it faced the couch, like it was waiting for something. Its little painted mouth curved just slightly, not a smile, more like a smirk. That night, Evan couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the stall woman's expression, about how she didn't blink when Tasha left with the doll. He dreamed of porcelain shattering, of tiny hands pulling something apart. When he woke up, the doll was in the hallway. Tasha swore she hadn't moved it. "Maybe it fell," she said, half asleep. "I probably bumped the shelf last night." But the shelf was high, and the doll was sitting perfectly upright on the hallway carpet, as though it had been placed. Evan put it back, turned it to face the wall. By evening, it was back to facing the couch. Over the next week, things changed. Lights flickered in certain rooms. The bathroom door would creak open, even when locked. Evan's phone started randomly playing old voicemails, messages from people he didn't remember knowing. Then came the scratching. Late at night, under the bed, in the walls. Light, delicate, like fingernails. Evan searched everywhere. Nothing, no mice, no signs. Tasha brushed it off. Old buildings creak. But Evan knew creaking. This wasn't creaking. It was waiting. One night he stayed up, just to watch it. Sat in the armchair, eyes fixed on the doll. 2:11 a.m. The air grew cold. The doll's head shifted, just slightly. Evan stopped breathing. Its body hadn't moved. But the eyes, the cracked one looked right at him. He threw it out the next morning. Didn't tell Tasha, just tossed it into the bin outside, beneath coffee grounds and eggshells, slapped the lid shut. When she came home and noticed, they argued. "It's just a doll," she shouted. "That thing's not right," Evan snapped. She stormed out. He sat alone in the living room, rubbing his eyes. Then his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He opened the voicemail. It was the sound of breathing. Soft, measured. Then a voice, crackly like it was filtered through an old cassette recorder. "I wasn't for sale." He ran outside. The bin was empty. He checked the whole street. Nothing. But when he came back inside, it was there. Back on the shelf. Same faint smirk. Same hairline crack. But something was new. A line of red, paint, he told himself, along the edge of its porcelain fingers. He didn't sleep that night. He barely blinked. And in the morning, the doll had moved again. Now it was sitting on his pillow. Evan left. Just packed a bag and drove to his brother's place across town. Left a note for Tasha. "I love you, but I can't stay in that house." She didn't reply for 2 days. Then came the message. "It's just porcelain, you're being silly." He almost believed her. Until she called, sobbing, whispering. "She won't let me leave, Evan. She knows I tried." Then the line cut out. He rushed back. The front door was ajar. Inside, silence. No sign of Tasha, no struggle, just one thing on the coffee table. The doll, its bonnet gone. Cracked head fully visible now. Its painted mouth open, just a little wider than before. And next to it, a price tag. Handwritten, faded ink. "Lot 42 taken." Oh, Evan, should have listened, shouldn't he? You see, not all things are bought with money. Some are claimed, some are chosen, and some simply follow you home until you belong to them. So if you ever stumble across something that was never for sale, don't touch it, don't take it, and never ever turn your back on it. Such a terrible thing to happen, don't you agree? Hey there, brave souls. Welcome back to the channel where your darkest fears come to life. If you're new here, I'm the Lady Grim Murmurs, your guide through the shadows of the unknown. But before we dive into tonight's chilling tale, I have to ask you something. Are you haunting my dreams? Because every night, I see shadows creeping around my bed, whispering to me, and the only way to banish them is for you to hit that subscribe button. How could you do this to me? Leaving me to face these nightmares alone? Don't you want to join our little family of thrill seekers? I promise, it's a hauntingly good time. Now, if you're ready to face the darkness, grab a blanket and turn off the lights. Because tonight, we're diving into a story that will make you question what lurks in the shadows. Tell me, when your phone rings at night, do you answer? You should know in the spaces between rings something listens too. You see, technology doesn't silence the old voices. It only gives them new ways to reach us, and sometimes they ring with purpose. Tonight's tale is about a call you should never take, a voice that knows too much, and a warning far too precise. This, my dear, is the story of Unknown Caller. Cassie's phone buzzed at 2:44 a.m. The screen read blocked number. She stared at it for a second. Normally she'd ignore it. But something about this one felt different. She answered. Static. Then a low hum, almost like breathing. "Hello?" she whispered. A pause, then a voice. "Don't go to work tomorrow." Cassie froze. "Who is this?" Click. The line went dead. The next morning she went anyway. The office was buzzing about the accident. A water main had burst during the early shift. Ceiling collapsed. Half the accounts team was injured. One woman broke both legs. Another was hospitalized after getting pinned under metal scaffolding. Cassie stared at the wreckage photos in the company email. That voice had known. That night she couldn't sleep. She tried rationalizing it. Coincidence, a prank, someone messing with her. She blocked all unknown numbers, changed her voicemail settings. At 3:08 a.m. her phone rang again. Unknown caller. Blocked, still ringing. She let it go to voicemail. Then a notification. New message. She listened. This time the voice was even quieter. Don't take the train Friday, not the 8:17. She sat up in bed, heart pounding. Who are you? She asked the recording. There was a sound at the end of the message. A screech. Metal on metal. Like train brakes. She told her best friend Danny the next day. Danny laughed. Creepy, yeah, but come on, train accidents don't just happen out of nowhere. Friday came. Cassie drove to work instead. The 8:17 derailed leaving Central Station. 4 dead. 30 injured. She watched the footage in silence, hand over her mouth. The calls kept coming. Always late at night, always a different number. Sometimes just a string of zeros. And always a warning. Don't take the elevator. Leave the movie 10 minutes early. Don't eat the salad. Every time she listened, something happened. A blackout trapped 12 people in the lift for 6 hours. The cinema caught fire during the credits. The bagged salad mix was recalled due to listeria contamination. The voice knew things before they happened, and it was always trying to protect her. Eventually, she stopped blocking the calls. She started waiting for them. She didn't even flinch when the phone buzzed at 3:33 a.m. Unknown caller. She answered almost eagerly. Tonight, the voice was softer, familiar. Don't go to sleep tomorrow night. That was all. She stayed awake the entire following night. At 4:22 a.m., emergency crews responded to a carbon monoxide leak in her apartment building. The tenants on her floor were hospitalized. Cassie was fine. The caller had saved her again. Then the voice changed, still whispering, still calm. But this time it said, "Stop telling people about me." She swallowed hard. "Why?" she whispered. Silence. Then, "You're not the only one I'm calling." Cassie pulled away, stopped answering. But the calls didn't stop. They increased. Every night. The warnings got stranger. Don't look out the window. Don't step on the sidewalk crack. Don't speak to your reflection. She obeyed, out of fear, out of trust. Until the night the call didn't come. The silence was worse. She waited, staring at the phone until dawn. Nothing. The next night, nothing again. The third night at 2:17 a.m. her phone rang. But it wasn't blocked. It was Danny. Cassie picked up instantly. "Danny!" Breathing, but not Danny's. Then the voice returned. Different now. Smiling. "You didn't listen, so now I'm calling someone else." Click. Cassie tried calling back. The number was disconnected. She drove to Danny's apartment. The door was open. Police cars in the street. A body covered in a sheet. Neighbors talking in hushed voices. Cassie ran. That night she stood in her living room clutching the phone, staring at the screen. No calls came. Not at midnight. Not at 2:00 a.m. Not at 3:33. The phone stayed silent. Until 5:04 a.m. Unknown caller. She didn't answer. Just stared at the screen as the phone buzzed once. Twice. Then stopped. A voicemail appeared. She played it on speaker. It was her own voice. Crackling. Fragmented. Whispering. "Don't answer this call." Click. Such a helpful voice, until it wasn't. "You see, my dear, some warnings are not given to save us, but to prepare us. One call, one choice, one moment too late. So when the phone rings at night, be careful. The line works both ways, and sometimes you're the one being dialed in. Such a terrible thing to happen, don't you agree?" Ah, mirrors. We stare into them searching for truth. But what if they stare back with something else? You see, games played in front of glass can become invitations, rituals hidden in reflection. And once the wrong eyes find yours, they might not give your face back. So tonight, come play along. A chant, a dare, and a reflection that lingers. This is the story of the mirror game. It started as a TikTok trend. Mirror game challenge. Say your name backwards 3 times while staring into a mirror at exactly 3:03 a.m. Then blink. If your reflection blinks out of sync, you win. No one knew what the prize was, just that it worked for some people. And if it didn't, well, you were still you. Probably. Nina didn't believe in that stuff. She followed weird tags out of boredom, not belief. But after scrolling through dozens of clips, teens gasping, lights flickering, reflections going still, she got curious. Especially after one video. A girl, same age, maybe 16, face pale, smile gone, staring blankly into the camera. Caption: "My reflection still hasn't blinked." It had over 1.2 million views, comments disabled. Nina saved it to her phone. That night, she set an alarm for 2:55 a.m. Her parents were asleep. She crept into the upstairs bathroom with a candle and her phone camera. The mirror was old, slightly warped, a hairline crack near the top left corner. She lit the candle, balanced her phone on the counter. At 3:03 a.m., she stared into the glass. Her breath fogged it slightly. She said her name backwards 3 times, carefully. Anin, Anin, Anin. Then she blinked and waited. Her reflection stared back. 1 second, 2, 3. Then it blinked. But something was off. Her reflection's eyes didn't close at the same time. One blinked a beat late, like it was copying her. Nina leaned in. Her reflection leaned too. Then she tilted her head. The reflection mirrored her, but too slowly, too exact. She backed away, heart racing, then blew out the candle. The mirror flickered. Just once. She didn't sleep that night. The next morning, she checked her saved videos. The original mirror game clip. Gone. The username? Invalid. The thumbnail, now just black. She tapped it. The video played. But it was her. Staring into the mirror, same room, same candle. But in this version, she didn't blow it out. And her reflection smiled. That night, she avoided mirrors. Turned them around, covered the one in her bedroom with a blanket. But they kept uncovering themselves. When she passed the hallway mirror, her reflection lingered a second longer. When she brushed her teeth, the girl in the glass didn't raise her hand in sync. And when she turned off the bathroom light, she saw her reflection blink. After she'd already turned away. She tried recording herself again, this time in daylight. She smiled, waved, danced in front of the mirror. Watched the footage back. At first, everything looked fine. Then, at the 18-second mark, her reflection stopped moving. Nina kept dancing. Her double stood still, face blank. Then it looked directly at the camera and smiled. That night, she broke the mirror, shattered it with a wrench from the garage. Shards scattered across the floor like ice. She swept them up, dumped them outside. But the next morning, the mirror was whole again, uncracked, clean. And in it, a note taped to the glass. "One of us has to go." She stopped sleeping. Her reflection started changing. Paler, fingers thinner, eyes too wide. It moved when she wasn't moving. Sometimes it stood still when she passed by. One afternoon, she caught her own face in a spoon. The reflection blinked. She hadn't. She begged her parents to remove the mirrors. They humored her for a day. By the third, they were annoyed. "Just a phase," they said. But on the 4th night, her mother screamed. Nina ran to the bathroom and found her mum staring at the mirror. In it, Nina was standing behind her, but she wasn't in the room. That was the last night anyone saw Nina. Her room was untouched. No signs of struggle, except the mirror. It had shattered into a perfect ring on the floor. No frame, no backing, just a flawless oval of fragments reflecting nothing. Except if you looked close enough. A girl trapped mid-blink, smiling. Some reflections are just waiting for their turn. And some mirrors remember the ones who looked too long. So the next time you find yourself tempted by a midnight challenge, be sure you know which side you're on. Because once the glass ripples, it may be too late to blink. Such a terrible thing to happen. Don't you agree? Ah, the reckless hunger of youth. Curiosity, after all, is the spark that lights most horrors, especially when one stirs the ashes of rituals long forgotten. A prank, they thought. A joke. But what happens when the old symbols stir once more? Come close, child, for tonight we speak of fire, blood, and things never meant to be read aloud. This is the story of the Ritual of Red Ash. Theo should have been studying, but it was Friday, and the university archives had just been digitized, which meant one thing: deep dives into the weirdest corners of the online collection. He had a habit of searching keywords like forbidden or classified, half hoping to uncover something juicy, half just killing time. That's how he found it. A scan of a scorched journal entry, handwritten, dated 1892. Title: The Ritual of Red Ash. Do not speak this aloud. Naturally, Theo read it aloud. It started with a chant, phonetic gibberish, then a short set of instructions. Gather ash from a living flame. Spread it in a circle around the self. Speak the name of what you wish to find. Theo rolled his eyes. Edgy nonsense. He read the rest. A warning followed. If the ash clings, it is listening. If the circle bleeds, it is seen. If the voice responds, do not respond back. He laughed, took a screenshot, sent it to his group chat. Let's summon a demon instead of studying. That night, his friends came over. Lena, sarcastic and sharp, Malik, forever skeptical. They drank, joked, lit candles. I have some incense ash, Lena said. Close enough, right? They scraped it into a bowl. Let's find something dumb, Malik muttered, like lost socks or my will to live. Theo grinned. No, let's find truth. He dumped the ash into a ring around himself on the floor. It stuck to his fingers like oil. He didn't notice. He began the chant again, half laughing. Ena solventara. The air shifted. The candle flickered. The ash ring pulsed. Creepy, Lena said, checking her phone. Wasn't this supposed to be a joke? The ash suddenly cracked like dry wood. Theo froze. A drop of red formed on the floor. Blood. Malik backed up. What the hell? I didn't cut myself, Theo whispered. The candlelight twisted, stretching the shadows into unnatural shapes. The air smelled like burnt sugar and rust. Then came the voice, soft, from the circle. You called me. The three stared at each other. Tell me that was you, Malik whispered. Theo shook his head. Lena was already reaching for the lights. They flickered, died. You called me, the voice said again, more insistent. Then silence. They bolted from the room. Later, back in their dorms, they tried to rationalize it. Carbon monoxide, group hysteria. Maybe the ash had chemicals in it. But Theo couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that red drop form again, perfect, viscous, alive. At 3:17 a.m., he woke up choking. Ash coated his bed sheets. More disturbing, it was warm. He checked his chest in the mirror. 3 marks across it. Not scratches, not bruises. Symbols, charred black. The same ones from the ritual page. He scrubbed until his skin bled. They stayed. Lena wouldn't answer his texts. Malik blocked him entirely. By Sunday, Theo was alone. The air in his dorm smelled like smoke. Every mirror he looked into, his eyes seemed different, blacker around the edges, less his. He returned to the library archives. The scan was gone. So was the journal. He asked the librarian about the entry. She looked confused. There's no such record in our system. He printed what he had saved, the screenshot, but the words were different now. The warning read, "It has found a voice. It will speak through what was opened, and it will not go back." Theo felt something move behind him. He spun around. No one there, but the lights above the reading table were flickering, one by one. He tried to burn the screenshot. It didn't burn. The flame danced around it like wind on glass. He soaked it in alcohol, set it alight again. The page blackened, then turned clean. Blank, like it had been reset. That night he heard whispers in the vents. His phone turned on by itself. Messages appeared in his notes app. You called me. I see you. Truth has a cost. He dropped the phone. It slid under the bed. When he bent to retrieve it, he saw it. Eyes. Watching him from beneath. Blinking in perfect time with his breath. He checked into a motel. Left the campus. Tried to sever all ties. It didn't help. He stopped sleeping, stopped eating. The red ash began appearing on his skin each morning, clinging to his fingernails, his lips, his teeth. He cut off contact with everyone. The voice followed. 2 weeks later, Lena received a package. No return address. Inside, a single sheet of paper, covered in ash, with Theo's handwriting scrawled across it. I said its name. Now it knows mine. Don't speak, don't read, don't answer. But when Lena picked up the page, the ash clung to her fingers. And underneath the soot, new words appeared, in her own handwriting. Oh, Theo, he only wanted truth, and truth is always listening. You see, dear one, rituals don't care whether you believe. They only need a voice. And once the ash knows your name, it will never be silent again. So the next time you stumble across forgotten words in a dusty corner of the world, do not speak, do not mock, do not call. Such a terrible thing to happen, don't you agree? Abandoned hospitals, forgotten wings, a rusted door still ajar. Places like Mercy Hill tend to draw attention from the curious, thrill seekers with flashlights and cameras, hoping for proof of ghosts. But what they don't understand is that some patients never leave. Some rooms still check you in, long after the staff have gone. So come along, if you dare. For tonight's tale concerns a final file, a blinking light, and 4 who walked in as strangers to history and never quite left. This is the story of the asylum's final patient. It was supposed to be their big break. The Blacklight crew, Jay, Mia, Desi, and Rich, had been exploring derelict buildings and posting clips for almost a year. Grainy footage, graffiti walls, the occasional raccoon jump scare. Their latest asylum video had gone semi-viral, 1 million views, sponsorship interest. They were finally getting noticed. So when Desi found Mercy Hill, an unlisted psychiatric complex decommissioned in the late 1970s, it felt like fate. There's almost nothing about it online, he'd said. No maps, just rumors. Jay had grinned at the camera. Perfect. They parked at dusk. The asylum was a crumbling monolith behind chain-link fences and overgrown brush. 3 wings, 4 floors, and an underground sub-level. Windows blacked out, trees choking the path. As they climbed the rusted side gate, Mia hesitated. Feels wrong. That's the point, Jay said, already filming. Welcome back, Blacklighters. Tonight we're entering a place that's been sealed since 1977. No record of its last patient, no exit date, Mercy Hill Asylum. Desi was already taking Polaroids, his thing, even in the digital age. Rich checked signal. No bars, we're totally offline. Jay smiled wider. Then let's make it count. Inside was colder than it should have been. Dust coated every surface. Wallpaper peeled like old skin. Graffiti covered the upper floors. Vulgar tags, bloody handprints, fake pentagrams. But beneath it all were the older scars. Medical records nailed to corkboards. Broken restraints still bolted to beds. And then the red line. A faded stripe of paint along the hallway wall, nearly waist-high, curving toward the south wing. Beneath it, stenciled in peeling letters. Level 3, observation, high containment. Mia frowned. This wing wasn't in the blueprints. It was sealed before the shutdown, Desi muttered, like it never existed. They followed the red line anyway. The hallway sloped downward. Dust gave way to ash. The air turned sharp, like burnt hair and antiseptic. Jay's camera light flickered. They passed a series of sealed doors, thick metal, viewports welded shut. Then they reached room 319. The door was open. Inside, a padded room, pristine, 1 bed, 1 light, and 1 blinking red camera above the bed, still powered. Rich's voice was a whisper. There's no electricity in this place. Then why is it watching us? Mia asked. Jay stepped in. Because someone wants us to see. On the bedside table was a journal. Black leather, no dust. Inside, a name. Patient 6B. And underneath it, I'm not the last, you are. Jay laughed nervously. Hell of a signature. Then he flipped the page. Blank. Next page, a shaky scrawl. They feed on watchers. Another. If you see the door open, it's already inside. Then came the sound. Chains dragging. But faint. Distant. From somewhere deeper. Jay backed out, white as chalk. Okay, he whispered. Okay, let's go. They turned. The hallway behind them was darker now. Much darker. At the far end, a door creaked open. Room 314. Empty moments ago. Now not. Desi took a photo. Flash. In the Polaroid, a figure. Tall, bent, draped in something wet and white. Mouth stitched shut. Holding a clipboard. They ran. Jay in the lead. Mia behind, clutching the journal. Deasy filming as he ran. The image jittered, hallways blurring, lights flaring white. They made it to the lobby, but the doors were sealed. Not jammed, locked. Chains had been bolted on the inside. "I checked these!" Rich screamed. "They were open!" Jay turned. "Where's Desi?" "Gone." They backtracked 10 steps. Desi was standing still, staring at something down the hall. "I can see it," he whispered. "It has Jay's face." Jay ran to grab him, too late. The lights blew out. When they came back, Desi was gone. And on the wall beside them, in fresh dripping red, "New patient admitted 6C. They reached the East Wing, empty nurse stations, scattered patient files. One file lay open like it had been placed. Name, Richard Morgan. Status, observed, unstable, treatment denied. Jay and Mia turned. Rich was standing in front of a broken mirror, tracing lines on his face. Blood streamed from his nose. He looked at them, dazed. "It's trying to get out." Jay grabbed his arm. Mia tore the journal from his hands, and the red camera lights above them blinked. Only 2 made it outside. Jay and Mia burst through a side maintenance exit that had never appeared on the blueprints. It led into the overgrown courtyard. A single light buzzed overhead, not connected to any visible source. Jay dropped his camera. Still recording. In the footage, he stared into the lens and whispered, "The journal lied. You don't have to say anything. Just seeing is enough." Behind him, the door opened again. Footsteps. Jay turned, and the recording cut. They found Mia 2 days later, walking barefoot along a railway line outside town. Unharmed, unwilling to speak. She was admitted to a facility in the city. Her only possession, a folded Polaroid. It showed room 313. The bed was occupied by someone smiling, faceless. The Mercy Hill footage resurfaced a month later, posted anonymously. The final scene shows a monitor wall deep within the asylum. Each screen displays a room. In one, Desi sits cross-legged, smiling at nothing. In another, Rich writes in blood on the walls. In a third, a new patient chart. Jason Ward. Status, stable, observing others. And on the bottom screen, a live feed. Mia, still in her room, still silent, but now smiling directly into the camera. Behind her on the mirror, observed, recorded, admitted. "There you are. You've watched too, haven't you? And that's all it takes. You see, my dear, places like Mercy Hill don't need doors to let you in. They need your attention, your gaze, your curiosity. So the next time you stumble across something that was sealed for a reason, don't look. Or if you must, don't blink. Such a terrible thing to happen. Don't you agree? They say everyone has a twin, you know, someone who looks just like you, but isn't you at all. Perhaps they live far away. Perhaps they died before you were born. Or perhaps, my dear, they've been waiting, watching, practicing. Tonight's tale is not about mistaken identity, but stolen identity. A smile that's just a little too wide, a reflection that blinks when you don't. This is the story of the doppelganger's smile. The first time Luke saw him, he thought it was a trick of the light. He was walking home from work, late evening, pale orange sky settling into twilight. He passed the old bus stop on the corner, glass cracked, poster peeling. A man stood just inside, head down. Luke glanced casually as he passed, then stopped mid-step. Same jacket, same backpack, same scar just visible beneath the chin. The man at the stop looked up. Luke's breath caught. Same face. But the man didn't blink, didn't smile. He just stared, and then grinned. Not a happy grin. A wide, empty thing that stretched too far. Luke turned and walked fast, heart pounding. When he glanced back, the stop was empty. He told himself it was stress. He hadn't been sleeping well. Work was demanding. His mother had been in and out of hospital. His landlord was threatening to raise the rent. He chalked it up to anxiety. Until the second sighting. He was on the train, 7:23 a.m., same carriage he always took. Halfway to the city, he saw a reflection in the window across from him. His own face, but not. The reflection wasn't sinking. When Luke tilted his head left, the image moved right. When he smiled, the reflection frowned. He turned sharply. No one was sitting there. But the reflection lingered just long enough to smile. He stopped looking in mirrors, shaved by touch, brushed his teeth while staring at the tiles, avoided shop windows. But glimpses still came. A face in the microwave door, a pale grin in the back of a darkened elevator. Once, walking past a bakery, he saw a perfect reflection of himself sitting at a table inside, drinking coffee, legs crossed. When he blinked, so did it. But when he stepped into the cafe, the chair was empty. His friends noticed first. "You okay, man?" Jamal asked over lunch. "You look off." "I'm fine." "You don't sound fine." Luke forced a smile. Jamal frowned. "Okay, that smile is creepy, don't do that." Luke's stomach turned. At night, he dreamed of his double. Sometimes the other Luke walked beside him on the street, mimicking his steps just slightly out of rhythm. Sometimes he sat beside his bed, head tilted, watching Luke sleep. One dream was worse than all the rest. He stood in a white room, mirrors on every wall. And in every reflection, the double. Except Luke had no reflection. Just the smiling thing in every frame. He visited a psychologist. Dr. Kalin, calm voice, tidy office. "You're describing symptoms of depersonalization," she said. "Mirror-based hallucinations aren't uncommon under stress." Luke nodded, pretended to agree. He didn't mention the phone video. Didn't tell her he'd recorded himself brushing his teeth and seen a second figure enter the room behind him. Didn't mention that, when he paused the footage, the reflection turned to look directly into the camera. The final straw was the photograph. He got a call from HR at work. "We received your badge scan from last night. You were seen on camera entering the lab at 2:43 a.m. "I was home," Luke said, "sleeping." Silence. "Well, someone who looked exactly like you was here." He checked the security logs himself. There he was, walking past the security desk, smiling. He stayed awake for 2 nights straight. No coffee, no TV, just candles and silence. He watched every doorway, every reflective surface. And then, just after 3 a.m., he heard it. A soft knock, coming from inside his bedroom mirror. He stood, frozen. The knock came again. Then a voice. "Let me out." Luke covered the mirror with a blanket. The voice kept speaking, soft, coaxing. "You're tired. I can take over. You'll feel better." He screamed. The voice laughed. And beneath it all, a whisper. "You already smiled. You already let me in." The next morning he tried smashing the mirror. The glass cracked. But behind the shards he saw a second layer, unbroken. And his reflection stepped forward, hand pressed to the glass. Grinning, Luke stumbled back. The glass healed. The reflection waved. Then faded. That night, Luke vanished. His apartment was locked from the inside. No sign of struggle. No forced entry. Just one thing left behind. A mirror, perfectly clean. And a single photograph stuck to its edge. A photo of Luke, smiling. But in the background, reflected in the glass, 2 Lukes. One smiling, one watching. A week later, Jamal spotted someone on the train. Same clothes, same walk, same face. He called out, "Luke!" The man turned, smiled, but the eyes were all wrong. Too wide, too calm. And as the train pulled away, the lights flickered, and every reflection in the window turned to smile. There now. Such a familiar smile, wasn't it? But don't worry, dear, you haven't seen your double yet. And when you do, you'll think it's harmless. You'll think, what a strange coincidence. Until it starts waving back at the wrong time. Until it follows when you walk away. So be careful, sweet listener, if you ever catch your reflection smiling when you're not. Such a terrible thing to happen. Don't you agree? Well, now we've reached the end, haven't we? 12 tales told, 12 doors opened. But there is one more, of course. A final whisper. A story about stories themselves, and the one who listens. The one who always listens. You see, tales don't simply vanish when the telling ends. No, sometimes they burrow. Sometimes they wait. So lean in, darling. Let me tell you a secret and a story. This is the storyteller's last tale. It started with a radio. Old-fashioned, walnut casing, brass dial. the kind you find in dusty antique stores and wonder if it still works. Gareth didn't buy it. It just appeared one day on the small table near his bed. He asked his roommate, Hal. Hal shrugged. Thought it was yours. They left it alone. For the first 3 nights, it was silent. Then it turned on. Just after 3 a.m., Gareth woke to a low hum, a crackle, then the voice. Old, dusty, female, warm. And so he wandered into the cellar, never to be seen again. A faint click, the radio went silent. Gareth sat up, heart pounding. He checked the cord, it wasn't plugged in. The next night it spoke again. She opened the 3rd drawer and inside was her own hand. Click, silence. Gareth laughed nervously. All right, good one. He unplugged the radio completely, tucked it under a blanket. But at 3:03 a.m., the blanket slid to the floor. And the radio whispered. He tried to hide the voice, but the voice knew where it had been left. He stopped sleeping. The stories continued. Every night a new one. Always short, always unsettling. And always somehow about him. And he deleted the messages, not knowing they had already been read. He thought the mirror showed him, but it showed who he used to be. And when he reached the final page, it was already written in his handwriting. He recorded them, played them for Hal. But in the recordings, there was nothing. Just static. Gareth brought the radio to a pawn shop. The man behind the counter refused to touch it. That's not for sale, he said, eyes narrowing. That's for listening. I want it gone. Then stop listening. Gareth left it on the sidewalk. But the next morning it was back, on his pillow, dial tuned to 103.3 FM. No such station existed. He took it apart, removed the speaker, cut the wires, smashed the casing, put it in the bin. That night at 3:09 a.m., he awoke to the familiar click. The radio was whole, restored, and this time the voice said, "Shall I tell your favorite next?" He began to lose time. Found pages in his notebook he didn't remember writing. Found scraps of torn tape in his pocket. One evening, Hal found him sitting in the dark, facing the radio, nodding slowly. "What are you doing?" "Listening," Gareth whispered. "She's getting to the good part." Hal moved out. Gareth stayed. He looked thinner, paler. His smile didn't reach his eyes. One day, his former professor received a box in the mail. Inside, a stack of cassettes neatly labelled. Gareth, recordings 113. The professor played the first tape. Static. Then the voice. Lady Grim Murmurs. Her voice filled the room. "This one is about this man who wanted the stories to stop." The professor hit eject. The cassette was gone. Gareth stopped leaving his apartment. Neighbours complained about the radio always being on. Except it wasn't. Police were called once. They found the apartment empty. No sign of Gareth. But the radio was on the floor, still whispering. And when he stopped speaking, the story took over. The building super tried to remove the radio. He died that night in his sleep. His wife swore she heard voices through the vent. And so the man with the keys never locked the door again. The room was left sealed, but the tenants still reported faint voices coming through the walls. Always at 3 a.m. Always the same woman. Then the tapes started appearing, left on stoops, in mailboxes, inside glove compartments, unlabeled. But when played, the voice was always the same, telling stories that sounded like the listener's own life. Private things, unspoken regrets, things never written down. One girl, 14 years old, received a tape. It told her the story of a missing brother no one knew she had. Another tape was found in a church confessional. It whispered a tale about a priest who buried his doubts beneath the altar. The tapes never repeated. No two were alike, but each one ended the same way, with the woman saying, "And that's how the story found you." Now some say the voice is a myth, an internet mystery, creepypasta, just urban legend, but others know better, because the tapes keep coming. And once you hear her, you start dreaming in chapters. You find old pages tucked inside your socks. Your phone begins recording at 3:03 a.m. without prompt. And sometimes, if you stay up just late enough, you hear the soft click of a radio you never owned, and a voice saying, "Shall I begin?" And there it is, the last of tonight's little bedtime tales. But the end is never really the end, is it? After all, Now you have heard the voice. Now you carry the tale. So sleep carefully, dear listener. Don't turn away too fast. And whatever you do, don't switch off the radio. Such a terrible thing to happen, don't you agree?